Let me stop you there because you were talking about the Civil War, and we know Abraham Lincoln was the president. And I read recently, very recently, that his punishment for keeping the Union together and kind of throwing off the shackles of the European influence, which I think that was kind of a part of it. I'm not an expert on that, but John Wilkes Booth, wasn't he a Freemason?
I believe he was. I've always heard that he's a Freemason.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a picture of him with the Freemason symbols, on his clothing, things like that. So, do you know anything about that particular assassination, and that it wasn't just what we learned in school, that there may have been more to it? And I bring it up because you brought up the Civil War.
Oh yeah. I am a firm believer that when you look at history and you look especially what they teach us in schools, they teach us that this was just one crazy guy essentially by himself that was making the decision. I hate Abraham Lincoln because of what he did. I'm going to go assassinate the guy. The reality is that more than likely he was working with the shadow government and the deep state or whoever it was, and I think to a certain degree that was a defining moment where they actually came out and changed the trajectory of this country by assassinating the president of the United States. And I think to a certain degree, when you look at American history after the Civil War and after Abraham Lincoln's assassination, you began to see them becoming more bold and more brash and more involved, and they would infiltrate into a lot of these agencies, especially the CIA, especially the FBI, and a lot of these internal agencies where they're actually pulling the strings behind the scenes, and they're actually using public events and staged events in order to manipulate the public. And that's where we go back to something like Martin Luther King Jr. and his assassination. Again, that guy probably was either not a lone gunman, or there were other people that actually took the shot. The same thing with JFK. With JFK, you look at what happened. There's no way that it was just the one guy that was by himself up there shooting from that window and took him out in that way. I've seen too many studies to show that simply did not happen. We can continue to go throughout history. I mean, look at Ronald Reagan and his assassination attempt. Look at all the staged events that we've seen happening, especially more recently today. Everything from January 6th, on down the line, we see this shadow government attempting to manipulate the American people through lies, manipulation, murder, crime, things that they're doing in order to manipulate all of us, even manipulate presidents. And it's a very dangerous thing. But if we're going to save this country, bring it back to what our founding fathers initially intended, we're going to have to drain the swamp, as Donald Trump used to say. We're going to have to rid ourselves of this secret society, of these essentially the deep state, the swamp, these secret societies that are actually going on. They're actually pulling the strings of our country right now. It's a very dangerous scenario, but it's something that we're going to have to confront. We're going to have to wake people up to its reality.